All right. This is our very special episode today. This is the Chamber Pod. We are doing a look back in time when wrestling was more pure, when it was more, I don't know, you get that, butterflies in your stomach watching these events. Your imagination would run wild. These larger than life superstars would be in front of you and you would be captivated. Um, this event that we're going over today, picked by Charlie. Charlie's my co-host. I'm JML. It's the Chamber Pod. Look back in time, and we're going over the Royal Rumble of 1994. Now, Charlie, why did you pick this particular Royal Rumble?
This was actually the first pay-per-view that I ever watched as a child, and I figured why not go back and revisit it.
Okay. Yeah. I remember around this time I had moved from New York to California because my parents had separated. So I don't remember actually watching this pay-per-view live. My grandfather had one of those illegal hot boxes, and he would record episodes of like Superstars, Raw, and the pay-per-views, and he would let them build up, and he would send me like one big box of VHS tapes. So I think by the time I watched this, it was around like WrestleMania 10 time, which I went to. So yeah, I have fond memories of like this era of wrestling. So I might be a little biased, but yeah, I was when you said Royal Rumble 94 after we did 93, I was on board with it. And what I really want is some audience participation. And what do you suggest, Charlie? You gave me this suggestion for the future look backs in time.
Yep. Leave in comments below what event you'd like to see us go back to next.
Yep. And the only thing I will say is a look back in time for me is anything from 2001 and prior.
Okay.
I really don't want to do anything newer than that now. I just want to go from like, I don't know. We could do WrestleMania 1 if you want, if they want. Doesn't matter. Any point from WrestleMania 1 to 2001, we will do a look back in time. All right, so this pay-per-view was in the smallest state in America. It's in Rhode Island, in the capital of Rhode Island, Providence, Rhode Island. I forgot about this award-winning commentary team they put together for that night. Vincent Kennedy McMahon and Ted DiBiase.
Yeesh.
Now, hindsight being 2020, right? You would have thought, based on Ted DiBiase's promo work, he would be just a great commentator. But man, he was awful. Like, he was terrible. He made Vince McMahon look great on commentary.
Maybe that was Vince's idea.
My real question was, Macho Man wasn't out of the company.
No.
Why wasn't he on commentary? I forget, and I was trying to take a look back. Was this around the time that him and Crush were feuding, and like he was injured because of like Crush? Okay. It seems like they were trying to get a different role for DiBiase, because I think DiBiase had just been medically like retired from the ring. And they're like, yeah, we'll try him on commentary. Terrible. He was just awful.
As far as saying he's terrible, maybe I'm biased because he was my guy back then. But well, in retrospect, he was my guy. I didn't watch when he was at his peak live.
Well, I know,
I just always zoned in towards Ted DiBiase matches when I go back and watch matches.
all I know is he all he did was laugh. All he did was laugh. He'd be ah ha ha Vince, ah ha ha Vince, ah ha ha Vince. He added nothing to the commentary. Nothing at all.
The heel commentator. He spoke on behalf of the heel wrestlers. He didn't really. I don't know.
And this was also around the time that Jerry Lawler was being like sued for rape or something like that, or he was like, sure. Yeah.
One of the first times.
Yeah. And I think ultimately those charges were dropped and whatever else, but he also wasn't available for commentary. He was supposed to actually have like a Survivor Series match against the Hearts, but then Michaels took his spot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So let's get into the actual matches after DiBiase was introduced as the special guest commentator. What a treat that was. The first match was the Native American Tatanka versus my favorite wrestler of all time, Bam Bam Bigelow. Now, what I do appreciate is Luna Vachon was underappreciated.
Oh, of course. I say that so many times.
And you know why she's underappreciated? When we list like Mount Rushmore of like females and innovators, I think we just completely like leave her off the list. Like she doesn't come to our minds until we actually watch something with her.
I'm a huge Luna Vachon fan.
Well, I'm just taking my perspective. Like, I like, it's like a mental block. Like when I'm like, oh yeah, Luna. Like she never comes to my mind. But when I rewatched this pay-per-view earlier this morning, I go, man, she was a good valet.
Yep.
She was a very good wrestler. And her look, like, no one had her look.
Yeah.
And as much as like Ripley and Shotzi, and they'll say like, oh, I was inspired by, Paige and whoever else.
They've never given credit to Luna.
It's never Luna. And like Luna was the one that had that, that goth metal like rocker chick look before everyone. And like she was that person. She was that person. And for that matter, looking back at her feud with like Sable in particular, like she made Sable look good, and that was like impossible to do. Like not even Jacqueline, who we all rank as like one of the best female wrestlers ever.
Yeah,
she couldn't get a good match out of Sable. But Luna actually probably got Sable's best match. Was it a 5-star match? No. But she got the best out of Sable. Tatanka. Dude.
Were you saying that WrestleMania 14 was Sable's best match?
Yeah.
Okay.
Tatanka. That dude was over. The kids loved him.
Yeah. I saw all the foam tomahawks in the crowd.
What do you think went wrong with Tatanka?
He was a good heater when he had Money Inc. When he was brought into Money Inc. Do you think they didn't let his face run go long enough?
Was it like just bad timing? Do you think like they weren't like at that time they weren't pushing the big guys, and then another big guy came in basically we'll get into like the actual Rumble match later when I talk about Diesel. It seems like as soon as a couple guys came in, like Tatanka got pushed on the back burner and he just never recovered from it. But Tatanka really easily could have had the Luger spot. Like he really could have easily had the Luger spot.
Yeah.
On the Intrepid. Like, Luger was a heel on television a week before as the narcissist. All of a sudden, he comes out red, white, and blue, all American boy, and body slams Yokozuna on the Intrepid. It would have been more believable if it was the all American, Native American Tatanka.
I hear you.
I don't know. It wasn't like Tatanka was not into muscle and fitness. The dude was ripped. He was a big dude.
He was.
Bigelow, very impressed with the drop kick he did in the beginning of the match. Like, he elevated so high for that drop kick. That'd be the only compliment he gets. He walked away and wouldn't sign my autograph when I was a kid. So, fuck him. Originally, this match was supposed to be Ludwig Borga and Tatanka. We didn't get that. Borga was actually the guy who snapped his undefeated streak, Tatanka's undefeated streak. I think Tatanka was undefeated for like 9 months until he took a loss. That's what I'm saying. Like, they could have just had Tatanka like at SummerSlam against Yokozuna, because they weren't going to take the belt off of Yokozuna that quick. Tatanka could have got this, the count out victory. It would have done wonders for Tatanka.
Yeah.
Tatanka gets the win over Bigelow. It was a solid match. The crowd was into it. It went 8 minutes, 12 seconds, and that's pretty much all that match needed. The crowd was into it, man. Like, the crowd was hot for that match.
Yeah.
Then what I would consider the biggest storyline and the theme throughout the night, we have the Brothers Hart, Owen and Brett, versus the Quebecers. Now, at Survivor Series 1993, you had the Harts versus the Kings table Survivor Series match. Owen was the only one from the Hart side that was eliminated. After the match, him and Brett got into a scuffle, and on like a Superstars the next week or 2 weeks later, Owen basically said he was tired of being in Brett's shadow. He wants to have a match with him. The next week on Superstars, Brett responded. You know what's funny? None of this happened on a Raw. It was all Superstars. And then Brett responded, I'll never fight my brother. No way, no how. And then a couple weeks later, they end up forming a tag team to go against the Quebecers for the tag belts. The Quebecers are a very interesting tag team because they weren't necessarily around for too long as a team in WWF. I believe they started teaming together in like May of 93, June of 93. Won the tag belts from the Steiners. They lost them a week before this event to Jannetty and 123 Kid, gained them back. And then they lost them one more time and regained them. So they were 3-time tag team champions in like less than a year. And I think at the time that was like the most tag team title reigns for any tag team, which is crazy to think about. I think Billy Gunn is like a 19-time WWE tag team champion.
He's up there.
But the thing that stuck out to me was I totally forgot that Johnny Polo was Raven and Raven was Johnny Polo.
Yeah.
I mean, how tiny did he look as Johnny Polo?
So tiny. He looked like a manager. Should.
Yeah.
He didn't look jacked or anything.
This was a match that, looking back at it, it built a storyline, but it wasn't necessarily a good match. Like, I think this match dragged way, way, way too long. This match went almost 17 minutes.
storytelling was there. You can't deny that.
The storytelling was there, but I don't know. It just was. It was kind of boring.
They probably wanted to put the emphasis on Brett and his knee to make it look like he wasn't going to make it to the Rumble, to make it that more shocking.
I get it. They were selling like Brett not tagging Owen in and waiting and the whole thing. But I don't know. This just the match is like, if we're gonna give like star ratings, it just wasn't, the best. Like, you would see this match on paper with Jacques Rougeau and PCO and the Hearts, you'd be like, oh, this is a barn burner. Definitely not a barn burner. This is definitely like, this is a means to get to an end eventually.
Yeah.
With the Hearts, not the Quebecers. Like, the Quebecers did not factor in at all into this storyline.
Put the emphasis on the knee.
Yep. So Brett couldn't continue. Ref calls the match. Owen's pissed off. Owen, in his own words, kicks the leg out of his leg. And
which was my first wrestling memory ever. I don't remember Tatanka and Bam Bam Bigelow starting off this event. I remember Owen Hart kicking the leg out of Brett's leg.
And what I really loved about it was Owen was already in the back getting interviewed. And they're like putting Brett through the aisleway, and like, Brett's looking on the Tron at Owen talking about how he kicked the leg out of his leg with the spit coming down his
There's
lip.
always spit when Owen is shooting. Whether it's a spit, he's.
The other thing was, how awesome was the old school Brett gear with like the white like paint drips on the black? Oh my god,
that's a classic.
Imagine they should sell those as like fucking like tank tops, as like WWE shop or something.
Chalkline has something like that.
No, Chalkline has the from that era. They have the jacket, which I have, the windbreaker. Those are cool. I mean, it was definitely a storytelling match. No title change, ref stoppage, all of that. Brett, there's doubt that Brett's going to come back for the Rumble match. I mean, what did you think overall about this match and story?
Watching it, I took a different view than you did of it. I thought, for story wise and what they had to do, it went the distance, and because we already know the payoff.
Yeah.
Now, so it's a different way of going back and watching it now, but I think they did what they had to get
cool.
to.
The next match on the docket. This match surprised me. This match was actually really good. And I don't know why I would say surprised, but I think I forgot how good IRS was.
Daddy, come on now.
So we have the Intercontinental title match, Razor Ramon versus IRS. This was when Razor was like really, like, he was super over. Like, he might have.
Yes.
He might have been, and this is coming from diehard Bret Hart guy, right here, the most popular wrestler on the entire roster at this time. Mm-hmm.
When those tires screeched for his entrance, everybody was on their feet. I could see it.
And his music, it has to be in the top 10 wrestling themes of all time. That Razor Ramon music is incredible.
Yeah.
Doesn't need to have lyrics. It's just everything about it. The way he would walk out, the gold chains.
When they had he had raining pyro, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just phenomenal. This was a continuation of the Razor storyline with Money Inc., which was DiBiase and IRS. Obviously, DiBiase no longer could compete due to a back injury. But IRS and DiBiase were the ones that essentially turned Razor face because they made fun of him for losing the 1-2-3 Kid on an episode of Raw. So this is where this whole storyline actually stemmed from. And it basically culminates in this match. Because the last match that Razor had at SummerSlam was against DiBiase, and then he finally got a match with IRS at Royal Rumble. We have some shenanigans that happens in this match with HBK doing a run-in with his Intercontinental Championship because he was stripped of the Intercontinental title. So what they did really well at this pay-per-view, as you mentioned with the prior match, was that we're definitely building towards WrestleMania at the Rumble.
Yeah.
And this is why I've always been an advocate for less pay-per-views or premium live events, because you build the anticipation for the next big show.
Instead of being where we're at right now, where there's Money in the Bank tomorrow night, we're recording on Friday, and we're still out a participant for the men's Money in the Bank match.
You know my thoughts. It wouldn't shock me if John Cena now comes out for that Money in the Bank match.
Gosh, I hope not.
But it would seem like they would leave some money on the table by making him a surprise and just not announcing him.
Okay.
But
I don't want to see that, but I hear you.
So originally it looked like IRS was going to win this match. Referee counts 3. The other referee comes out. No. Here's the belt. Then we get Razor ultimately getting the victory. And obviously this leads to a match at WrestleMania between HBK and Razor in the ladder match, which is deemed to be one of the greatest matches of all time.
If that's not in your top 10 ladder matches,
it should be your number 1 ladder match.
Yeah.
It could be arguable about top 10 matches of all time, but it certainly should be in the conversation for anyone's like top 20, 25, top 30. Like if you can go more than like 25 matches without mentioning the first ladder match between Razor and HBK, you either never watched this era of wrestling or you're just a dummy. And essentially that is, you get your 2 best matches at WrestleMania out of this pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Owen and Brett, Michaels and Razor.
Yep.
Then we have our main event title match for the WWE title. Anything else you want to say about Razor and IRS?
I'll get to it when we get to the end of the Rumble, because my thing is just about how there were too many ref stoppage, too much with the refs.
Okay. We have the Yokozuna with Cornette and Fuji versus The Undertaker with Paul Bearer. Casket match for the World Heavyweight Championship. Now, before we came on air, I mentioned, man, it's unfortunate that Yoko lost his gas so quickly. And it's so evident on just how they booked this match. They had, what was it, like 10, 11 people that had to run.
Yeah. To help Zuna in this match.
Every heel on the roster had to come out.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. I mean, there was times where he was taking the Undertaker's punches and like moving back, and I thought, like I was like, man, he's gassed. Like he is literally gassed.
And this wasn't even him in his worst shape in WWE.
No. So I don't know. Maybe there was some partying the night before. God knows what happened. But man, the way they booked this prior, this was a very heavily anticipated match between these two guys because The Undertaker was the first person to ever just get up from a bonsai drop.
Yep.
And, we had the feeling at the time, maybe The Undertaker could take the belt. Nope, that wasn't in the cards. The Undertaker loses this match. And we
won, but he lost.
Yeah, we do not see The Undertaker until SummerSlam of 1994. Okay. And in between this, we have the fake Undertaker. And Leslie Nielsen at SummerSlam finds the real Undertaker. And eventually Yokozuna and Undertaker have their rematch at Survivor Series 1994 in a much better match with Chuck Norris as the enforcer. So I'm glad like the rematch was better. But this match, Charlie, take it away.
It was awful. It was just awful. It had about 10 minutes of Taker versus Zuna, and then the locker room entered.
Yeah, and you would figure with 4 of the 5 main people, Yoko, Fuji, Taker, Paul Bearer, and Jim Cornette probably should be a Hall of Famer in WWE, but he just talks a lot, so they probably won't let him in. That they would have came up with something better. But I mean, obviously Yoko was gassed, and it almost seemed like Yoko and Taker Rat Gorilla and Pat Patterson looked at them, or whoever was like making because Vince, you got to remember, Vince was on commentary. Yeah. So he doesn't see these guys before they come out of the curtain at this time. So whoever was back there probably just been like, however you guys thought you were going to book this match. And it seemed like it was a Pat Patterson thing. Like, we're just going to throw the whole heel locker room and like just dusty book the shit out of this match. And that's what they did. The cool thing was like the Undertaker, like disappearing trick at the end. That was cool. Remember as a kid, that kind of creeped me out, but it was cool nonetheless. Yeah, and Yoko will obviously he retains. He goes on to WrestleMania as the champion, which will lead us into the actual Royal Rumble match. Now, what did you think about this Royal Rumble match as a whole?
Up until you got to the latter half of entrance, it wasn't really much. But it did put together some ideas for matches for WrestleMania. With Crush eliminating Macho Man and
Doink and Bam Bam.
Yeah. I'd say from about when Diesel started taking over on, it was more watchable than the first bit.
Mm-hmm.
That was established.
So yeah. I believe this was around the time that Doink was no longer Matt Bourne. It was like the 3rd or 4th guy who played Doink. But the original Doink the Clown as a heel was phenomenal. It was one of the best gimmicks, scary personalities WWE has ever come up with. And they tried to recreate that with Bray Wyatt, which they also did a very good job with, but also dropped the ball with that character. But Doink could have very easily been a top heel for a very long time until they decided to market the character as a kiddie character and just changed on a dime. It's unfortunate because I think Matt Bourne's no longer with us. He had some demons and some issues and problems, but I mean, I think those problems led him to being released and the character being changed from the evil Doink persona that he came up with to the PG Doink that we got around this time with Dink and Doink and all the little midgets running around and all of that. Scott Steiner, first entrant in the Royal Rumble. You got a bunch of Hall of Famers in this Royal Rumble. Scott Steiner, Rick Steiner. I consider Owen Hart a Hall of Famer.
Absolutely.
All right. Diesel, Bob Backlund, Billy Gunn, Savage, Jarrett, Bam Bam. Bam Bam's in the Hall of Fame, right? No?
So,
We'll double check. And I'll say this, he's a Hall of Famer. I just don't like him. HBK, Greg Valentine, Lex Luger, Bret Hart, Rick Martel. I mean, this was a pretty, star-studded Rumble for the time.
Rick Martel was underrated.
Compared to the previous Royal Rumble, this Rumble was more stacked than the previous incarnation of the Rumble from last show. The biggest surprise for me at the time was how Diesel, who we didn't see much of in the ring up until this point, just dominates this Rumble.
Yeah.
And this is when Vince McMahon had dollar signs in his eyes. He goes, "This is my next Hogan. This is my next big star." And this is why guys like Tatanka and even Luger and whoever else they had plans for, they got pushed on the back burner. Even to a lesser extent, this is probably why we never got Razor as a WWE champion. Because, yeah. Yep. He eliminated 7 people, which was the record at the time. 7 eliminations. Up until this point, I would say it was one of the most impressive Rumble performances by far. And the fans, they loved him during this Rumble. The crowd was really into him. What say you?
Yeah, like I said, this is where the Rumble really took off for me. When Diesel first came in and started single-handedly eliminating the next 7 participants.
It's true. The final 4. Fatu
made it to the final 4. Go Fatu!
Fatu. HBK, Bret Hart, and Lex Luger.
Yep.
I think what annoys me the most about this Rumble is the co-winners.
Yeah.
Was this a work? Was this a shoot? What the hell went on with this Rumble?
I think it went how it was supposed to. You can see them getting tangled in each other before they go over. Like, I don't know. 3 years, however old I was when this first aired, thought it was a shoot.
And the thing that really irritated me as a young fan that got the VHS tapes delivered to me a month after this had happened was I remember vividly I had the Royal Rumble tape, then I had the Raw tape, and that fit on one VHS tape, those 2 things.
Okay.
So that Raw, they didn't announce what they were going to do for Mania. It was the following week after.
Oh no.
So, yeah. So then I got that tape and I finally figured out, okay, so now it's this is a time before the internet. This was the time before, the wrestling magazines were like 3 months behind.
What's
So,
training?
yeah. Um,
Google that, children.
so then they announced the convoluted coin toss stipulation. So whoever wins the coin toss gets the first match at Yokozuna, and then the loser gets the first match deal. So it was either going to be Luger and Crush in the first match or Brett and Owen in the first match. Now,
oh, okay.
Yeah. So they would have like their little warm-up match, and then they would fight in the main event with whoever would win the first title match. If you know Yokozuna can't wrestle The Undertaker for 5 minutes,
why double book him on their biggest show?
why would you, during the biggest show, want to book him for 2 matches? You tell me what sane person thought of that. I can't even imagine how bad Yoko stunk during the main event. There was no way that man was showering after the first match. At least Brett had the opening match, so he could he was probably good to go for the main event. Let's look this up, because now let's see. WrestleMania 10. What was the match order?
First was Owen and Brett. Second was first Owen and Brett or Doink and Bam Bam?
No, it was Owen and Brett.
Oh, okay.
The second match was Bam Bam and Doink.
Okay.
Yoko and Luger were the 7th match on the card. So then he had to come back 3 matches later to have another match against Brett. What the fuck are we thinking? This was definitely a period where they were just not thinking.
He's our champion, damn it.
He could do it. We'll give him all you can eat buffets and he'll figure it out. Yeah. I mean, poor Earthquake and Adam Bomb had a 35-second match at WrestleMania.
Oh, jeez.
That was the 8th match. So just imagine the time between the 7th match and the 10th match was a combined about 20 minutes. 25 minutes probably with Endrum. Let's say a half hour. You have Yokozuna turn around a half hour after you had a match with Luger? Have a match against Brett?
Gross.
Brett must have feared for his life. He's like, man, this guy's going to just bonsai drop me to hell. Unbelievable. I hate to sound biased, but it just felt like anything that Brett did, it just seemed bigger. Like, just the way, like, he told a story. Like, even this stupid co-winner thing, like, he ended up always coming out on top and, like, turning like these bullshit things into gold.
I think a lot of people overlooked Luger versus Zuna for Brett versus the winner of that match.
Yeah. And I think, depending on what the audience wants, I would eventually like to do WrestleMania 10, because I think that would be a good one to go back and look at. But it was obvious at the time that going into this Royal Rumble, it was going to be one of these two. And it seemed like Vince was too chicken shit to pick one of them to win and was like, damn it, both of you will win.
Another match on this card that came to a strong point for the ref's decision. And to have 3 matches that totally come down to the referees, I think is a bit of lazy booking, but whatever you want to do. You do you.
Often overlooked. And I mean, you could disagree with me, but I kind of dug the Japanese Crush.
What he was sporting at this
when like Crush was with Fuji and Yokozuna, like I thought he was badass.
Yeah.
Like that first heel, like that first repackaged heel Crush. I thought he was good. But then him and oh man, I really want to talk about WrestleMania 10. Please vote for that.
Comment below.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Debauchery at WrestleMania 10. I'd love to talk about it more with Crush and Randy. But I think star of the night wasn't Brett.
Wow. Look at you.
It wasn't Luger. It wasn't Razor. It wasn't Owen.
Diesel.
It was Big Daddy Cool.
Okay.
This is when the Rocket was going to get strapped. The beginning of the Rocket, like the first little belt loop was going in, and they were off to the races.
The first big showcasing of Diesel.
Yeah. So, obviously he had this Rumble performance. He ends up winning the Intercontinental title around, I think it was around the King of the Ring 94 time period.
Which is another one that I would love doing. So comment below. King of the Rings back then, that was my event. I loved King of the Ring.
He also won the tag belt with Michaels. And then he ends up winning the WWE title all within a span of like 10 months between the Rumble and winning the WWE title.
I remember hearing on the radio that Diesel beat Bob Backlund in MSG for the World Championship.
And it was like 7 seconds or something like that.
Yep.
Unbelievable. So he was star of the night. And I think a lot of people look back at the Diesel title run and they go, man, that's when the business was down. But if you look at financials, the business was actually worse at this time than it was when Diesel was champion.
Okay.
And that's taking a shot at Brett, right? Because, the guy that holds the belt apparently is the guy that, the financials come out of. That's not always the case, right? But the Diesel title reign, it wasn't necessarily bad for business. They made more money the previous year with him as champion than they did with Yoko and Brett. Maybe that was because they were a year past Hogan at that time. They were going like on year 2 of not having Hogan. But the Diesel title reign was actually not bad. He just should have never been a preppy face.
Yeah.
They turned his character from like that tweener to what WWE always likes to do. Oh man, we'll make him the all-American boy. And that's not Kevin Nash. Kevin Nash in real life is not that kind of guy.
Simply put, no.
He is a laid-back, mofo. Like
Daddy Cool.
He is Big Daddy Cool. And then they turned him into the tall version of Brett. That's basically what they turned him into. They're like, you're the tall Bret Hart. You got the long black hair. Like you're the
As when you said tall version of Bret Hart. If you guys pick WrestleMania 10, when we go back in time to view it, my favorite chant ever is during the Bret Hart Yokozuna match. That's all I'm gonna say.
Now, what would you say this Rumble was a top tier Rumble? Was this in the mid or was this a lower tier?
Mid.
Yeah, I agree. Not like this is definitely a better Rumble than 93. Although I think 93 had the best match out of both of these Rumbles. Like the Razor Bret Hart match is better than any of these matches. By far. You could disagree with me, but Bret Hart and Razor is definitely better than anything on this card.
Let's see. Yeah. After going back and watching 93, yeah, that's a fair statement to make.
It's too bad that we never saw Randy Savage and Bret Hart in a feud, Randy Savage and Shawn Michaels in a feud. Like before Randy left WWF.
Yeah.
But all right, so with that being said, we're gonna wrap up the show. But before we wrap up the show, I'd like to thank everyone that subscribed to this YouTube channel. We're hovering around 300 subscribers in pretty much 2 weeks' time, which is it's quite remarkable. I didn't think we'd get more than like 30 in 2 weeks. So to have 300 is quite overwhelming, but I'm also very grateful. I know Charlie's grateful. And Frank, who does our Spin Rate podcast show, or Cast Pod show, the baseball show we do, which I'll be recording in a little bit. And I want to give back to the subscribers. We had the Macho Man Randy Savage giveaway, which I'm going to keep here because we blew by 200 subscribers. And I want to do 1,000 subscriber giveaway. I'll leave it up to you guys of what you would like to see as a giveaway. Let's be realistic with it. And I will take all ideas into consideration and come up with something. But it will be a nice give back to you guys. Charlie, you want to say anything?
Just a big thanks for the 300 subscribers. Comment below on which event you'd like us to go back in time and watch for our next Back in Time episode. And stay tuned because we have plenty more for you.
Also remember, there is a Patreon that you can join. The Patreon, you can do 2 things with the top tier. You can actually pick a show that you want us to record, or just me to record with whoever. Or you can actually host the show with us, or both. So if you want to do, let's say you want to host WrestleMania 13 with me and Charlie as a show, you can hop on with us. We'll get that aligned, and that's part of the $9.99 membership benefit. And also what we plan on doing as soon as we get to about 30 members is we'll do members only videos where only members can see them. So yeah, look out for that, and we'll let you guys know as soon as we hit 30 Patreons on that. The link tree is on our YouTube channel. Also, we'll post all the links in the description box. And as usual, good night and good luck. Deuces.